We are now halfway through impulse control, and you may be starting to see faster progress. Every time your dog sleeps, he processes not only the specific behaviors, but the theme underlying all these exercises: good things come to those who wait. We're going to continue to make it more difficult. In the last lesson, we started increasing realism in our Leave It by accidentally dropping temptations. We're going to check in on this cold, right at the start of the session. And then, once she's warmed up a bit, we'll start generalizing this behavior to different kinds of items. One word of caution: if your dog is an object guarder, if he growls, snarls, snaps, or bites when you try to take stuff away from him, omit the generalization pieces here and consider getting professional help. It's a fixable problem. Let's see how Lulu does on her cold trial. Lulu has done really well on her warmed up Leave-Its, and now she's 24 hours cold, and so I'm going to try a cold trial. I'm going to do an accidental drop and then see if she passes. If she flunks, that's really normal to flunk a cold trial. I'll just practice until she's warmed up and then continue to do cold trials once a day until I get there. If she does the cold trial, I'm going to give her something better than what I'm dropping. I'm dropping her regular food, and I've got Pecorino Romano cheese for if she happens to nail the cold trial. The other thing that's different now is I'm adding the cue. The cues: leave it. You can use off, you can use don't touch, anything that rolls easily off your tongue. Leave it. I have to protect, make sure I'm ready. Okay, so the cold trial was not there, but that's fine, that's really normal. Now she's warmed up. Leave it. That was a little bit better, but not quite dead on, so I'm 0 for 1 on my warmed up set. Good girl. Pay, a little bonus. Good girl. 1 for 2. Good girl. 2 for 3. Good girl. Excellent. 3 for 4. Oops, dropped it. Oh, and a 4 for 5. That was really quite good. She only needed that one little warm-up rep to get right back on track. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a different object. This is for generalization. I have here a nice greasy paper bag. It's had sandwich and bacon and so on in it, and this is to simulate the kinds of stuff that we often have to get dogs to not touch. And so once again, I'm going to accidentally drop it, but I need to be prepared. I'm ready. So if she goes for it, I'm going to use my body to block. I'm going to step on it if I have to. Do anything you need to do to make sure the dog doesn't win the speed game. One important thing: omit this exercise if your dog is an object guarder. Seek professional help. Leave it. Good girl. It's 0 for 1. It's a novel thing. Leave it. Oops, that was unfortunate drop. I'm going to call it her error, even though technically that was my error because it kind of wafted in her direction. Leave it. Good girl. I'm 1 for 3. Good girl. Good girl. So I'm alternating. Sometimes I give the cue because I want to start attaching the cue to this behavior. But other times I'm not, because I also want the context itself. If somebody drops something as a default behavior, do not touch it. Leave it. Oh, he's a good girl. And I think that was a 4 for 5. So I'm going to proceed now with my downstay. And where we left off, she was doing a full walk around, which is really good to accomplish in one session. Usually that's a 2 or 3 session job. And so let me see if she's still got the walk around. And if she does, I'm going to commence the other direction. And that can be a completely different kettle of fish. Good girl. And I'm going to get her onto one hip. There we go, because it's a little bit more comfortable. Oh, too bad. 0 for 1. That was cold, so not surprising that she, good girl. You may notice that I'm starting to roll her onto one hip using a hand signal now rather than a lure. Oh, too bad. 0 for 2. Good girl. One hip. Clever girl. Oops. Whew, I'm going to give her a bonus in the paycheck because mid-walk around I dropped a piece of bait, which is really good. So that was a very, very challenging 1 for 3. Good girl. There's a 2 for 4. Oops, too bad. 2 for 5, that's a drop. So I'm going to drop 2, 4 steps. Good girl. Too bad. Good girl. Too bad. It's an 0 for 2. This is really normal. Don't worry about. Normal dog training is just replete with drops and sticks and splits. Perfectly normal. Take it in stride. Just keep training. They will get there. Sometimes people get very, very precious. Oh my God, I had to drop, or I had to drop a second time, or I thought he had it and then I had to drop. It's the path of madness. Good girl. The other path of madness is getting mad at yourself for losing count, which I have just done again. So I'm going to call that a push. Who's good? 1 for 1. Girl. 2 for 2. Three for 3. 4 for 4. When they start to get good, we call this the dizzy factor. Because I've been walking in the same direction, I've got a little bit of dizziness. That means the dog is getting every trial right. Try my other direction. Good girl. Tried 2 steps. If your dog doesn't do 2 steps, usually we do 1 step. I just had a feeling I could go a little bit more aggressively with her. She's so warmed up now. There's a 4 for 4. And there's a 5 for 5. The different direction is a whole new ballgame for many dogs. And sometimes when you're doing the walk around, you happen to get their, quote, good side first. They do differ. Some dogs find it more difficult to have somebody to their right or to their left. And that's just how it is. There's no sense trying to divine why. Just keep training. Good girl. I do believe that is a 5 for 5. 1, 2, 3. 1. Good girl. 1 for 1 on 3. Who's good? Excellent. 3, 1. Very nice. Okay, let's try. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Clever girl. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 for 3. 3, 4. 2, 3. 4 for 4. Good girl. 5 for 5. Let me try my other direction walk around. She may have a problem with me going behind her from this direction. Too bad. Very common. Says, yeah, you've been behind me, but you've been behind me going the other way. This is different. So I'm 0 for 1. I'm 1 for 2. Two for 3. Who's clever? Yeah. 3 for 4. too bad. It's a 3 for 5, that's a stick. Good girl. Good girl. 1 for 1. Whoops, this is my stick set. Good. 2 for 2 on my first stick at new direction. There's a 3 for 3. Four for 4. Feeling that happy dizzy. And had a flinch that time and she didn't move. She had a little intention behavior and I thought, oh, she's going to break. That's a perfect run. I'm going to do a double walk around. This is actually now, I'm legally double dipping. Oh, you know what? Oh, no, I was going to give it to her had she just, too bad. Oops, too bad. Good girl. Pay her for going onto one hip. Get loaded. So I'm 0 for 2 on my double walk around. If my next trial is a dud, I'm going to, oh, too bad. I'm going to drop criteria. Good girl. So now I'm going to do a single walk around in my new direction. That's my previous step. Good girl. 1 for 1. The double walk around essentially doubles the duration. So I'm getting a little bit of free, oh, too bad, a little bit of free duration for my distraction, which is really efficient training to actually get a couple of parameters on board at the same time. There we go. That's a 2 for 3. I think that's what I am. That's a 3 for 4. And a 4 for 5. That's a push to double walk around. Oh, that's her first ever double walk around. So bonus for that. Whoops. And a bait drop. Couldn't have been the worst moment for a bait drop. That's such a clever girl. She did that without even a flinch. This degree of proofing, when you get to a really solid double walk around, very, very nice. You've got this fantastic foundation for any other stay proofing that you're going to do. You've got some heavy distractions on board. You've moved all around in space. There's a little bit of free duration. So when you start doing other kinds of distractions and locations for your stay, it's actually going to feel relatively easy. And the dog has learned the game, which is when I say this, it means you've won. When I say that, it means you've lost. And your system is seamless. Excellent. So now we're going to do exactly the same thing with Moxie. This is Moxie, who you met earlier. And what Moxie's going to demonstrate for us is a couple of things. One is Moxie, when she's in a downstay, she actually prefers to roll onto her right hip. Now, your dog may not have a preferred side, but if you notice, if you just observe them, you may find out that they do. And when you're doing a downstay, the path of least resistance, and what's going to really help you, is to roll them onto the hip that they already prefer. It's a little more comfortable for them. So Moxie's had a little bit of pre-training on downstay, so I'm going to do a warm-up rep there. Oh, good girl. She flinched but thought better of it. 2, 3. Very good. Try the other side. So I'm just seeing if what she's been pre-trained is going to translate to the other side. The other thing that's new is you'll notice that Moxie is on a mat. If you train downstay on a mat, if you do it just religiously, like whenever you train downstay, you use the same mat, you're going to get this extra little fringe benefit. And that is, you not only will have a downstay, you'll also have what's called a prop cue. When you bring out that specific mat that you've been using, the dog is going to do what we call an auto target, which means they're going to target the mat and they're going to do an auto down. So basically, they're going to gun for the mat and splat. They're going to go start doing their downstay without you having asked for it or done anything. So you get this extra little thing where if you wanted to send your dog over there for a downstay, this is your head start for that. Good girl. Props like this are very salient to dogs. They're context cues that actually are more obvious to them than things like verbiage, hand signals, etc. Good girl. 2 for 2. Let's see if I can get a walk around. She's really doing nicely here. Now, I don't know what her better side is for the walk around, so I'm just doing what is mechanically the fastest for me, because ultimately it's in everybody's interest if I crank out reps quickly, because it keeps my rate of reinforcement up. Good girl. 5, try 3 steps. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Boy, not even a flinch. Like, I'm not seeing any even little tip-offs that I think, okay, she's going to blow it soon. She's crazy glued down, as we say in the biz. Or hammered down, we used to say. Sounds a little violent, but basically, it's as though the dog is nailed down to the mat. If you do enough downstay, you can actually end up with a dog who's what we call sticky, which means you go to do position changes or anything where the dog has to move, and the dog is like, nope, the answer in life is don't move. Some people think that's the most glorious thing ever. Other people want more versatility. 3, 4, too bad. Okay, so on 4 steps, I got my first little break. Proves that she's mortal. 1, 2, too bad. That's the problem with a Sphinx down, is boom, they can kind of just explode out of their down. 1, 2, too bad. Pay my down, but pay my setup behavior. Keep my rate from tanking complete. Too bad. Okay, so back to 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. Whoops, too bad. Good girl. 1, too bad. If I have one more dud on 3 steps, I'll go to 2. So I'm an 0 for 2 on 3. Whoops, too bad. Girl, let me try 2. 1, 2. 1. She says, I can do that. Okay. 1, 2. 1, 2. Girl. 1, 2. Too bad. Good girl. 1, too bad. 1, 2. 1. Good girl. I had a flinch that time, but she didn't move. 1, 2. Too bad. Okay, that's a drop. Drop to 1 step. That was a 2 for 5. Very normal. She says, I'm clever, but this is pretty new for me. I also might be starting on her bad side. And she's also not rolled onto one hip. Too bad. Too bad. 0 for 2. Good. 1 for 3. Too bad. For 4. So back I go. That would have my best possible case scenario. There would be a 2 for 5 set. So I'm back to 1, 2, 3. Good girl. My previous step in the plan. And this is fine. This sort of dropping back, you just do it and try to do it without sort of emotional content. Like, oh, this is a tragedy. I have students emailing me day and night that their dog is somehow abnormal or learning disabled or has a brain tumor because they had to do multiple drops. Totally normal. Wait till you see how good Moxie gets if I just keep training. Try for a walk around. Well, that's something. See, I almost had a bet with myself. Good thing I didn't bet too much that she was going to blow that first walk around. So if you saw, her little left leg contracted, her rear left leg contracted, but she didn't get up, which is something. These things, if you don't notice them, it doesn't matter. If you stick with the numbers and use a vetted training plan, you can't go wrong. But once you've trained many, many dogs, you'll start to see these little canaries in the gold mine that tell you, ooh, the next one's going to be good, or future attractions are going to look like this, or the dog is just about done, and so on. Not necessary to have that to be a competent trainer. So that's my first walk around with Moxie. And what I'm going to end up with, if I keep training her downstay on a mat, is she'll become what we call mat happy, which means that mat is going to be like the party place where I just run to that mat, lie down on it, and good things happen. So if you elect to use a mat for your downstay, when you're not using it, when you're not actually going to be working a downstay, pull it, which means don't have it down. Because we don't want extinction trials where the dog spontaneously goes on the mat and they don't get anything, because that'll just kind of wreck your beautiful prop cue. It's kind of like saying a verbal cue over and over and not actually having it lead to a contingency. My next step is a bungee stay, and that means I'm going to do a little bit of distance, but without any duration added on. So when I get to my desired distance, I'm going to go right back to the dog as though we're connected by an elastic bungee cord. Get onto one hip. One, too bad. Oh, for one. Very good. Good. 1 for 2. 2 for 3. Good girl. 3 for 4. Good girl. 4 for 5. That was beautifully executed. And we're going to move on and do exactly the same thing for sit stay and see how far we get. Sit stay is a little bit more difficult for most dogs, and Lulu is no exception. So I'm going to continue where I left off, which was I was trying for my first walk around. Good girl. Oh, too bad. She blew her cold trial, very normal. So she's warmed up for the session, but she's not warmed up for sit stay. Good girl. There's a 1 for 2. Who's good? Excellent. A 2 for 3. Very clever. Oh, too bad. 2 for 4. Start all over. Good girl. 3 for 5. That's a stick. Good girl. 1, 2, 3. 3. Good girl. 2 for 4. 1. Girl. Actually, I'm on my new set. That's a 2 for 2 on my new set. 3. 1, 2, 3. It's a 3 for 3 on my new set. Who's good? 4 for 4. Didn't expect that. That's really good. Small bonus. Bonus in the paycheck. 1, 2, 3. Great. So I'm going to try for 4 steps. See what I get. 1, 2, 3. Good girl. Going behind the dog on a sit stay, as you can now imagine, is different from going around the back of the dog on a down stay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 for 2 on 4 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good girl. 3 for 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. 1, 2, 3. Great. I'm going to try my walk around, and if I get my walk around, I'm going to quit on sit stay because that was formidable progress. Excellent. Oh, who's good? Didn't expect that. 1 for 1 on my first sit, stay, walk around. And a 2 for 2. Clever girl. Who's good? 3 for 3, you're so good. There's a 4 for 4. Happy trainer dizzies. There we go. And a 5 for 5. That was really, really well done. If you have problems, there is a split you can do. If you get really stuck at the rear of the dog, here's a split you can try. You're going around, you're going to do your walk around, but you're actually going to give the dog a point of focus right here. And that's basically, you're splitting the degree of prompting parameter, okay? So it looks like that. So the very first time you go around them, they've got a point of focus, and then you pay with that same thing, and then you try without, okay? But only if you need it. Don't do it unless you have 2 failed drops. All dogs have a good side and a bad side. And it could be that you've hit your dog's good side first and the bad side comes after, or vice versa. Okay, so now we're going to practice our loose leash walking. And instead of going to a pile of food, we're actually going to go towards a novel toy to just get that little bit of extra generalization in. And I have stuffed a Kong with peanut butter and beefy bits, which I'm going to let her see. And she says, I want to go see my dad. But let's see if I can get her at all interested in this. If she's not, I'm going to go with a chicken side dish. Oh, that's delicious. She says, I will have the chicken side dish. Thank you very much. Okay, good. So I've got something novel, and we're going to practice. I've got my standardized leash length and my rules. Too bad. Try again. This is different because it's a new thing she's going towards. Good girl. Too bad. Got a little greedy on. She almost nailed her second trial, but then she got greedy at the end. Very normal. Too bad. Oh, did she get one? Oh, trainer error. We hate that. She's gonna say, you know what, maybe I can win the speed game. And we want to cook things up. Too bad. Try again. Who's good? And I'm gonna pay from my person. Excellent. Good girl. So now, while I am doing my loose leash walking, I'm occasionally going to deliver my weight cue, and then I'm just going to stop. And when she stops and attends to me, I'm going to pay her. This is starting to translate weight out of the doorway context and into walkies context. Later on, when we're outside, we're going to further generalize it to waiting to leave the hatch or the door of the car. Okay, so we're just going to walk around, and now we don't have a directional goal, so I'm not too worried about anything. But every now and then, when she gets a bit of a head of steam, I'm going to say, wait. Good girl. And she stops, looks at me, and I pay at my person. So I'm position feeding, actually even a little bit back from where she was. Do some walkies. Wait. Good girl. That was really lucky. You don't usually get a head snap on trial 2, so that was probably luck. She is a bright dog, but that would be otherworldly. A little bit of walkies. Now she's actually given me some spontaneous healing, which I could capture, but I'm not, because I really want to demonstrate to you. Wait. Good girl. My goodness, who's clever? Very clever. Okay, let's go. Wait. Good girl. Formidable.
How this exercise normally looks is there's a good anything from 12 to 20 to even 40 repetitions where you're out on walkies or you're practicing in the house. You get the dog starts going in a straight line. You say wait, you just stop it. They then hit the end of the leash and they're like, well, why aren't we going? And then over time, they start to look back at you. You say, oh, thank you very much, and you pay in position. And you have to prompt that so many times that way. And then eventually you get what you just saw, which is Lulu head snapping on the verbal cue. Really what we want, we don't really require the eye contact. The eye contact is a good stand-in or a proxy for cessation of movement. The actual criteria is cessation of movement. Eventually, this can even translate to off-leash when your dog is going along and you say, wait, and that means they just stop. They don't have to hold a sit, a down, or a stand or anything. All they have to do is pause any kind of forward movement.
My guess is you're getting mechanically smoother by now. You're faster, you're more thought police with your timing, your intertrial latency is brisk, and you feel less fumbly when you pay, and you're better at protecting the stash when you have to. You'll continue to get better and it'll just become second nature. Just keep going. In the next lesson, we're going to start with another leave it attempt that is stone cold, unrehearsed, no warm-up, of our novel item. Based on how she was in this session, my prediction is that she's going to pass the cold trial.